From the world-famous Blackbird Studios, it's the Rave X podcast. And now, Rave X.
Hey, what's up, kids? This is your boy, Rave X. You are in for a treat. Today, we're going to talk about all things from the DC Cinematic Universe. Do you like Batman? Do you like Superman? Then this is the show for you. I'm your host, Rave X, a traveler of both time and space. And joining me for the second time is my man, all the way from the Phantom Zone, Bill Bushey. Bill, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Rave?
All right, so Bill, you saw Shazam, right?
I did. I saw it at screening, which is kind of unusual for me.
Sounds good. Can you give it a grade? Tell us a little bit about the movie. Oh, kids, if you're tuning in, spoilers. We're just going to spoil everything. By the way, Bruce Willis was dead the whole time in The Sixth Sense, okay? We're spoiling everything. So, Bill, don't worry about that. Just give us a little elevator pitch for Shazam and how you liked it.
Yeah, so it's definitely an entertaining movie. It's pretty kid-friendly, which is important to me because I got kids. They actually had a chance to meet Zachary Levi at the Rhode Island Comic-Con last year. So they've been pretty amped to see Shazam ever since. I figured this advanced screening would give me a chance to check it out for myself, make sure it's okay, and it's a good show.
They always show pictures, like behind-the-scene pictures of, when they're making these movies. And I always hate that because, it's not going to look like the way you see it when they're just standing out on a street in Vancouver. So what do you think about the costume? Because when I first saw that costume, it was like, whatever. How did it work out for you?
Listen, you're talking to a guy that remembers from the 1980s the Shazam on television, so this is definitely a step up. I'm not so sure I was on board with the lit-up lightning bolt in the middle of his chest, but overall I thought it was pretty good. Yeah,
that was an interesting move. They decided to have like a practical effect that actually lit up, and I think that kind of helps them out if someone's standing close to it or whatever. So what about the villain, Dr. Sivana? Now, the thing about the villain was The Rock, and I know you know this, The Rock was cast as Black Adam like 5 years ago.
Right.
And they were like, The Rock's Black Adam. And you're like, okay, cool. Well, who's Shazam? They're like, don't worry about that. So they opted to introduce us to Shazam first with one of his other sort of rogues gallery, Dr. Sivana. And then I think in the next movie, we're probably going to get Black Adam. So how did the villain do in this movie? Was he a good villain? Because you can't have a good superhero movie without a good villain.
I took a look at him. I'm like, is that Stanley Tucci? I couldn't even tell at first. I wasn't sure how that was going to play over. He seemed like kind of a wuss. But then once he got caught taken over by the spirits, he turned out to be pretty badass.
Now, when The Rock does come in, I feel like The Rock is going to steal the show from Zach Levi. There's no way you can, who else can be in a movie with The Rock and it's going to be 50-50? So you're looking forward to The Rock as Black Adam. I think, obviously you're a fan of wrestling. When The Rock is a heel, he's the best. Like, no doubt. We don't want good guy Rock. We want bad guy Rock. So what's your views and opinion on The Rock as the great Black Adam?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think he's going to overshadow Zachary's performance no matter what he does, even if it's a bit role.
He doesn't even need to have to, act like Black Adam. Just act like The Rock as a heel and just come out and just wreak havoc. And I think that, Zod in Man of Steel was a great villain. But he was very, sort of deliberate and labored. He never really yelled. A couple of times he yelled, but it was just his presence and how, mean he was. And I think that when we do get to see The Rock as Black Adam, it is going to just be, the most amazing thing. Do you think they should do, a Rock Black Adam, his own movie? Or how do you think it would work out? Does he need a bigger cast? Should it be the Black Adam versus the Justice League, or you think it would be okay?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I think it would be great to see a Black Adam movie in and of itself, but I don't know how that would work. I think the mechanics of it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. But I think The Rock could certainly carry that movie by himself. Going up against Zachary Levi again, I think Levi might get outclassed a little bit, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm not even entirely sure if it's been confirmed. Has it been confirmed that he definitely will play Black Adam?
Oh, definitely, man. Like I said, I remember I was walking to work and I was listening to a podcast, and this was 5 years ago, and they're like, yeah, The Rock signed on. So he's definitely going to be Black Adam. Anything could happen. He could always back out. But, he's had meetings with the people up there at Warner Brothers. They like him. And so that's on the books for a while. And the only reason why I was saying maybe Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Shazam against The Rock is because Dwayne Johnson is so electrifying. You know what I mean? So on one side of the scale, you have Dwayne Johnson. On the other side, you'll have, Gal Gadot, Zachary Levi, Henry Cavill, hopefully. And maybe that might balance it out, which leads me to my next point. I have a theory, Bill. And my theory is that because people were kind of lukewarm on Man of Steel, that they swapped out Superman in this universe for Shazam, who is much lighter and brighter and kid-friendly. I mean, for Christ's sakes, he's a kid, right? Do you think that they swapped out Superman in this universe, like Shazam will be our new Superman?
Okay, I actually have a theory about that.
Oh, good.
Basically, I don't see Shazam being the next Superman per se. I think that this movie, when it does come out, Shazam, it's going to resonate with people in a way that even they won't be able to put their finger on. But having given it some thought, I think I know what separates Shazam from pretty much any other superhero movie you've ever seen. And I don't think I'm giving away any major spoilers when I say this, but Shazam actually likes being a superhero.
Yeah.
He giggles when he discovers a new power. He likes to show off what he can do for YouTube hits. I mean, we got so used to the dark and bitter superhero movies. This is a refreshing break from the norm.
Yeah, it's funny, and I think about this a lot because we had the 3 Christopher Nolan movies, which are, everyone likes. The last one wasn't that great, but whatever. And those were super real and dark and gritty, and, 9/11 had a lot to do with that. After 9/11, it's like you can't do spandex dudes running around being goofy. And, time has gone on, and now we're kind of getting back to the lighter tone of stuff. I mean, you're seeing with a lot of superhero movies, they're going full superhero. Like, did you see Aquaman?
Yeah, I did.
Aquaman was full comic book. If they would have tried to do an Aquaman, maybe 10 years ago, maybe he wouldn't have had the full-on superhero suit and it wouldn't have been colorful. Maybe he would have been like, I'm Aquaman. But that was a fun, more fun than Justice League and more fun than sort of Man of Steel. I think that this is the DC Universe course correction. I think we're going to get a lot more bright, colorful, full superhero movies. We're away from the dark and gritty now. And the strange thing was, going back to my original point, everybody loved the dark and gritty Nolan-verse. So then when they came out with Man of Steel, Batman, Superman, Justice League, people didn't really like it. And they were kind of like, oh, shoot, what do we do? Course correction. Is this the new face of DC, Bill? Is it going to be bright, happy, everything's PG? Are we done with the gritty universe?
You've got to find a way to make it less gritty, but at the same time, get away from the camp. I mean, Shazam, for all of his benefit, he's not brooding on a dark, tall tower overlooking the city. He's not wrestling with a desire to just be a normal, because he always has been normal. As Shazam, he gets a little drunk off of his newfound abilities, I'll admit, most of which he discovers by accident. But he has a lot of fun with them, which makes it a fun movie. I mean, if anything, Shazam removes the bitterness and solitude of his life, and he replaces it with powers and a foster family. And he manages to do it without camp, which I think is really important.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the character of Shazam? I remember, like you said, the TV show back in the day where he was like a Hispanic kid who turned into a white dude, and they rode around in a van like solving problems. It was really crazy. Like kids today don't know how good they have it, but on TV, I mean, that was like we're around the same age. You would just watch anything superhero oriented. Do you remember like Challenge of the Super Friends, all the whole live action Super Friend thing? Did you ever catch that?
I used to be the Hanna-Barbera Saturday morning cartoon kid. But beyond that, I'd watch Shazam, I'd watch The Incredible Hulk, even Wonder Woman every now and then when I wanted to catch a break.
Man, let me tell you something, man. When I was a kid, I could not get enough. I mean, lunchboxes, comic books, whatever was on TV. And now, the kids have all these great movies, these huge $300 million movies, Now, Batman, we got Matt Reeves' Batman coming up. That's supposed to be dark, gritty noir. But I think that in an isolated movie, we can go gritty. It depends, right? Like, you can't do dark and gritty with Shazam or Wonder Woman or Superman. But I think that Batman is that last dark, gritty hero that will give us a balance. Do you have any take on Ben Affleck leaving? He officially left. And what's your views on the Matt Reeves Batman movie? How do you think that's going to be?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm old enough to remember hearing about a Batman movie that was slated to come out in 1989. And I was like, oh, it's going to be so cool. Who's playing Batman? My friend's like, Michael Keaton. Like, what, Michael Keaton? Are you serious? Mr. Mom's playing Batman? So, I mean, I've never really been the kind of guy to get it right when it comes to casting and, like, Matt Reeves taking over. He's probably going to do a really good job. I've always been wrong. Every time I think it's going to be absolute shit, it comes out being a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, man. It really broke my heart when Ben Affleck was like, I'm not Batman. And I listened to a guy, his name's John Campia, and he gets a lot of sort of behind the scenes stuff. He said like a year ago, like, yeah, Ben Affleck's done. Like, they're just not saying it. And even at Comic-Con, when they were coming out for Justice League, Ben Affleck got out there and did the dance. He's like, oh, I love Batman. Matt Reeves, this movie's going to be awesome. From what I've heard, after Justice League came out, he was almost done after that. And I really don't know. I heard Robert Pattinson, is that his name, from Twilight?
Oh, yeah.
I can't, like, I don't know. And who knows now, because, look, we were wrong about Ben Affleck. We thought that was going to be, like, a real shit show. It turned out to be the best Batman ever, so who knows? Some people are saying John Hamm, but Matt Reeves wants to go younger, so who knows? But I do think that whoever they're going to cast for Batman has already been cast, and we'll probably hear it, like, the next Comic-Con or whatever. Now, moving on, we're going to move right down the line here, man, with these DC Universe movies. Wonder Woman, 1984, Bill. We like the first Wonder Woman. We get a next Wonder Woman coming out. Do you think they're going to make any changes to her character to brighten her up or anything? Like, is she going to be more smiley, because of the new sort of course correction for DC? How do you think that's going to affect Wonder Woman?
That's a good question. I know that the first Wonder Woman, she's been around for a long time, we know. Now she's in modern day. Now we're going to ship at the 1984, whatever. I think she's going to be relatively the same because she doesn't change much from the past to the present. So why would she be that different in 1984? I heard they wanted to release it next year, and then someone was like, yeah, if we do that, we're going to bit of a rush job. We don't want to do that. We want to take our time, get it right. And I think that's a good decision because the first Wonder Woman movie was great. Gal Gadot, oh my God, how awesome is she?
So perfect.
I think taking that extra time is exactly what they need to make a great sequel.
I agree. And, it's funny. I work in a loading dock, and Linda Carter, obviously the original Wonder Woman, she wrote a book a few years back, and she had to go up to Barnes & Noble to sign the book. And I thought, wait a minute. They always bring in these sort of movie stars and stuff who sign these books and stuff. They always bring them through the loading dock, and I get to at least meet him. And she came in 2 black SUVs, and she gets out, and oh my God, that little 8-year-old boy, the little 8-year-old Rave X Bill, when I saw Linda Carter, and she's beautiful. She's got to be like, at the time, 63. And I waved to her, and she waved to me. And this is before Gal Gadot actually got cast. And I was like, yeah, if they ever do another Wonder Woman, they have to live up to that, because that was so iconic. And Gal Gadot definitely hit it out of the park. Yeah, so I agree with you. They're not going to change her too much because she's already established. Now, moving on, we talked about these sort of single movies. What is the deal with Henry Cavill? Is he Superman? Are we ever going to get a Man of Steel 2, Bill? That was like my favorite movie.
It continues to live on, as we know. Rumors first started floating around last year that Cavill had hung up the cape for good. Out pops Jason Momoa in around, I want to say, September. And he's like, oh, yeah, Cavill loved the role of Superman.
Yeah.
He's got no intention of leaving. Cavill's never actually come out and said definitively whether or not he's done. But generally speaking, I think the Superman franchise tends to suffer if there's an oversaturation of the character. Superman does its best when we have him in small doses. So we had George Reeves. He gave us, 6 seasons in his black and white awesomeness. Dean Cain gave us 4 seasons. Christopher Reeve gave us 4 movies. Tom Welling, he gave us 10 seasons, sure, but he got away with it for as long as he did because he never had to throw on Loretta Underoos. And now we've got Cavill. Cavill gave us 3 movies. I don't know, maybe it is best that he leave the role for a while, or at the very least go on hiatus until something awesome comes along, because I genuinely like Cavill as Superman. We have to think of Superman as a handsome superhero, right? Henry Cavill's definitely a good-looking dude, no homo. I like the suit. It's sleek, it's camp-free, and I thought he did a good job with the role. The only reason why he was panned so hard on that last movie was because of that goddamn phantom mustache.
Yeah, we talked all about that. Guys, Bill was on the show before. We did a full Justice League discussion, so you guys can go back and listen to that. So like we said, spoilers, we do get to see Superman at the end of Shazam, not Henry Cavill, correct, Bill?
Yeah, so the very end, and I'll make it a really short story. The boy who befriends Billy Batson, once he becomes Shazam, is like, oh yeah, come to my lunch and kind of redeem me because I'm getting my ass kicked every day. And Shazam winds up flaking out on him. But at the end of the movie, Shazam comes to have lunch with him just like he promised, and it's like the biggest thing ever. He's like, oh, I hope you don't mind, I brought a friend. All of a sudden, in comes Superman, but his head is like cut off in the frame.
Oh my
God. You can't see who it is, but you see the exact same Superman outfit. And of course, the boy's like, oh my God, and that's when they cut to the credits.
Did you see him from the front and they just like obscured his face somehow? They like just hid his head behind a bush or something? Like,
No, basically just like you see his entire body except his head because the camera, if the camera had panned up, you'd see his face. So the camera just panned down because the two were seated, and then Superman comes walking into the frame, you know?
yeah, and I remember because a lot of times when they do these movies, you know, they can have the movie done, and then if there's a cameo, they can tack that on later. Like I remember with Avengers, one of the Avengers movies, maybe the second one or the first one, they were done with that movie, and it was actually, I think they actually released it, and then they filmed another like end credit and popped it on. Sort of, they just, I don't know, they email it to the theater, they tack it on. I'm sure that's not how they do it. And so they were going back and forth with Henry Cavill as far as if he was going to do this cameo. Now, Henry Cavill's doing The Witcher on Netflix, so they're currently filming that now, so he was busy. And, you know, his star has risen quite a bit. That was the whole thing. You know, he was a big part of Mission Impossible, and they couldn't get him back for reshoots. Well, they could, but, you know, he had to keep the mustache. So I believe he was doing The Witcher. And they were like, come do a Shazam spot. And also there's a lot of talk about money. You know, he wants more money. And my thing is with these people, man, when you hear about this guy got, I don't know, $40 million to play a superhero, bro, if I could do it, you could give me like $100,000 and a six-pack of Corona and I would play like Black Panther for you. But I mean, you know, Henry Cavill's agent is actually The Rock's ex-wife, Danny something, who's also The Rock's agent. Yes, yeah. Danny Garcia, correct. So they put out this great picture of Henry Cavill and The Rock sitting there together, and it was like Black Adam versus Superman. They were just negotiating like where they're going to go, you know what I mean? So Henry Cavill's holding out for money. If we do get another Superman movie, I think it's going to be a Supergirl movie. Have you heard about this?
I haven't, but I hope you're wrong.
No, they want to move, and this is where we're at now. Everything has to be super diverse, which is great, and I think we've got there now. Like all of these superhero movies are incredibly diverse, but they're, you know, because Wonder Woman was a hit, with Marvel, they got Captain Marvel. We have a solo Black Widow movie coming out soon. So they want females. They want to have a lot of female movies. So I heard that Man of Steel 2 is on the back burner for a brand new Supergirl movie in which he might make a cameo. So Superman, it's in question. Batman, we got a Matt Reeves movie coming out. Wonder Woman, we got Wonder Woman 1984. Of course, we're going to get a Shazam sequel at some point. So, Bill, wrapping up here, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The current state of the DC universe, it was all thumbs down for a long time, man. And I've always said this. A bad Marvel movie is like a bad blowjob. And a good DC movie is like good root canal. Like there was no way that Marvel could lose, and there was no way that DC could win. What do you think the current state of DC movies, the DC universe is right now? Are we good?
I think actually Shazam just might be the turnaround that they needed. Because I think you're going to find, and I don't know because it hasn't come out yet, you're going to find a lot of people are going to enjoy it. And they're going to be like, wow, they're going to give more credit to the DC universe than they have in previous movies. I mean, sure, you've got, like you said, we talked about it earlier, Ben Affleck is out, we know that. I mean, the point, he's 46 years old?
Yeah.
I'm not really surprised. But they're going to have to recast him at some point, and I'm sure they're going to do a better Batman movie. And they're going to have to get a little bit lighter, like you said, lighter costumes. Just as long as they can avoid the camp, DC Universe has a solid shot at competing with Marvel.
I like that. So here's a yes or no for you. Do we ever get a Justice League 2?
Yes, we do.
We do get a Justice League 2. All right, kids.
We absolutely do.
Well, there it is, kids. All the news from DC Universe that's fit to print. My name's Rave X with the great Bill Bushey. And remember this, kids. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I'm Rave X.
And this is Bill Bushey.
Till next time, kids, take care of yourself.
That was the Rave X Podcast. Be sure to click like and subscribe. For podcasts, new music, and all things Rave X, go to youtube.com and search Rave X Music.